Good evening, everyone. We're going to start the meeting now. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Julie Reyes, Chairperson of Community Board A. Thank you all for coming. And I would like to thank Amalgamated Housing Corp for hosting the Community Board meeting this evening. Just a few points. Any board member not absent but in attendance via Zoom is permitted to speak and participate in discussion, but will not be eligible to vote. And just a reminder to the board members, during the course of the board meeting, kindly raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged by the chairperson before you speak. Thank you. So we'll go on to item number 2, public gallery session. Our first speaker is Rachel.
Hi, my name is Rachel Margolin. I live in Spuyten Duyvil, and I had a small request. The sandbox in Paul's Park, which is right next to Henry Hudson Park, has been empty or nearly empty for many years. And I would like the city to have someone fill it up. When you call 311, they say that we're only entitled to 3 cubic yards per year, which is why it is empty. I don't know if we get those 3 yards, but so that was my one small request.
Thank you, Rachel. It will be noted. Are there any other speakers? Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak who hasn't signed up? Okay, so then we'll go on to the next item, report from the mayor's office.
Elena's on Zoom.
You have Alina Dow.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Alina.
Hi, good evening. I apologize. I'm actually towards you guys, but I do want to say good evening to everyone. I am Alina Dow, Bronxboro Director for the Mayor's Community Affairs. I wanted to share that we are really excited because this is the 9th straight month that crime is down. I know the mayor mentioned it, and he's really excited about that because that has been something that he has stand on regarding getting crime to be lower. In addition, this is obviously we're coming into the winter season, so please, everybody, be aware that you are required by law to have heat. If you do not have heat, you call 311. You get your complaint number. If you do not, if it hasn't been addressed, if your heat is not according to the law, I want you to please take my email down. I know I can't put it in the chat, but I'm going to give you my email address, and please send me the complaint number because the mayor really wants to make sure that this is also addressed. In addition, I know there's a lot of cooperatives that are within Site Community Board 8, and the mayor did announce he launched a project to help affordable housing projects go green, and they save green according to local law 97. So I'm going to send that information over to the board so that they can find out more information. And if there's any questions about it, please feel free to contact me. My number is 914-446-8393. And my email is B as in David, OWE as in Edward, at cityhall.nyc.gov. And if anyone needs me, please, I will see you guys shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Alina. Does any board members have any questions for her? We will go on to the next item, report from Bronxboro President's Office. Is Alexis?
No.
If anyone is present on Zoom from our President's Office, please raise your hand. We will go on to the next item, report from the 50th precinct. Is anyone here from the 50th precinct?
Captain Pierce.
Hi, I'm here.
Thank you, Captain Pierce.
You have to pardon me. I don't have the numbers in front of me because I'm in the car with my kids, but essentially we're at like a single digit reduction in crime, like Alina said. We have some small upticks in right now, burglary, felony assault, and robbery for the 28th day. I don't know if you guys heard about it. We had a couple of those like weird FedEx robberies where there's like a crew that's like tracking iPhones. But we have probable cause, and one of the guys was arrested in New Jersey, so that should be the end of that. Same thing, we have a burglary pattern that involves an arrest that we made this week. So probably going into the next month, we're probably going to be looking at lower numbers, which is good.
Hi, Reggie. Did everyone hear him clearly? Because it came out a little fuzzy to me. But I think you gave out stats, and you can send them to the office, and maybe we can distribute it to the public safety chairperson, and we'll have it distributed.
Yeah, I mean, all the stats are all available on the public facing website. If you guys want to take a look at them, they're all, if you just Google NYPD 50th precinct, there's a link to an Excel and a PDF of the stats.
Okay, now it's clear. Are there any changes in hate crimes?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Any changes in the hate crimes?
We have 2 for the year. I know you guys ask this every month, but there's only 2 for the year. I don't mention them because there's really not much to talk about.
Okay, so nothing since the last report.
No, like I said, we have 2 for the year, and it's September. So there's, once every 4.5 months or so, we're averaging one, and it's usually graffiti.
Okay, great. Does anyone have any questions for Captain Pierce? Thank you, Captain.
No problem. You guys have a good night.
You too, be safe. Okay, we'll move on to the council members' report. Councilmember Dinowitz will be joining us shortly. So we will go, is there anyone present from Councilmember Sanchez's office? Is anyone present from Councilmember De La Rosa's office? So then we'll come back for Councilmember Dinowitz, and we'll move on now to item number 7. New York State Senator Gustavo Rivera. Oh, there it is. Wherever you go.
Yeah.
So I guess I have to.
You can come up here if you like.
I guess I'm just saying, but just in case, this is, that's me. Thank you for the little sign, by the way. Good evening, everyone. Want to be able to, you sure? I'm speaking on my, so that people can actually hear me. And I should probably speak up my in the Zoom can hear me. Okay, I want to see that 3-minute thing in front of me so I can stick to it as much as I can. I will be good evening, everyone. Couple of things that I wanted to report on that I've been working on, and then a couple of things I wanted to really quickly at the end. First, we have been doing, my office has been pretty busy the last couple of weeks. We did our first environmental justice fair on Saturday, October 5th at the Williamsbridge Oval, which was very a great success. We did a scavenger hunt at the Bronx Zoo back in September 21st, as well as today we had the SPH breast cancer mammogram, mobile mammogram van up in Riverdale at right in front of, what is it, Burger Yo. Gilbert. I was about to say your mama burger, but that's not it. So we had it in the front there. We had a bunch of people stop by. Just so you know, I've been partnering up with SPH, St. Barbara's Hospital for the last couple of years. We have this mammogram van which we can take in different places. So if you have any ideas about places that you think people might need it, so that they can actually get their mammogram done, we have it available. So please be in contact with us, and we'll make sure to work with you to get it there. And lastly, I'll just speak very quickly. I had the opportunity yesterday to be, I came up, I went up to Riverdale in commemoration of the attacks last year of October 7th. I'm sure there's many folks that have been thinking about it a lot. The only thing I will say about it is certainly it was a solid moment and one that, as I said, on Sunday when we had the opportunity to do a march to ask to just pray for the folks who have been held hostage to be let go. One thing I would say that I said then is that as I've been learning more about Jewish culture and the Jewish community and Jewish traditions, the one thing that stuck with me, and this is something that Rabbi Pusner said in the Bronx Jewish Center in the east part of my district last week when he commemorated it in an event there, was the notion of joy in Jewish tradition being something that can overcome fear and terror. And the one thing that I would, while we certainly mourn for those that we've lost, and we pray for those the folks to come back, we should linger on the joy that those families will feel when these folks are back in their arms, when these family members are back to their families. So I will, and then moving on to a very different, very different thing. Obviously, we have the election coming up in just a couple of weeks, so make sure that you know where your early voting sites are, as well as whether you're going to vote by mail. You can do both of those things, and certainly my office can help to connect you with the resources that you need. That's 2 minutes.
Rather dramatic, don't you think?
Yes, that's the way to tell you that you're over. So I will just do 1 more minute really quickly, and just really quickly. So, I would encourage you to learn about the ballot proposals. There are 6 on the ballot. I would encourage you, certainly, I will be encouraging you to vote yes on number 1, which is a ballot proposal that would change the New York State Constitution to extend protections to a whole bunch of folks that are currently not protected in state law, and to include it as a constitutional protection. And then there are ballots from 2 to 6, and I would encourage you to learn about them. I would be voting no on each one of those proposals, since I believe there's an extension of power from the mayor that is not warranted. But we could certainly have a longer conversation about it, and learn about these proposals so that you can vote on them to just flip your ballot over on election day. And since I'm all the way over 2 minutes, I just want to do something really quickly. Bring the things over here. Just wanted to do to recognize 2 members of the community board who have certainly been who are not only important members of the community board, but important members of our community. And wanted to, let me see which one we have first. The first one to honor Laura Spalter, Chair Emeritus of Community Board 8. We have and there's all the different facts about who this lady has been in the community board, who this lady has been in the community, how important she has been to this community for such a long time. And one phrase which I will read here that is also in the other awards I'm going to give in a second. Whether is such service as described here in the proclamation, whereas is such service which is truly the life of the community of the state so often go unrecognized and unheralded. Now, therefore, be proclaimed that I, New State Senator Gustavo Rivera, am proud to honor Laura Spalter, Chair Emeritus of Community Board 8, for her exemplary services to her community and state. Ms. Spalter.
All right. Did not know.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And one more. And this is somebody that I've had the opportunity to work with for many years. Not only did she come into the community to make sure that there was continuity in an organization that I am sad to say got caught out of my district by just a few blocks, the King's Heights Community Center. Not only did she come in and actually stabilize that, but gave it an enormous amount of growth. And then after she left there, now does the same thing for organizations all across the city, where she gives her expertise to make sure that nonprofits can continue to be successful wherever it is that they serve, whomever it is that they serve, and that is my good friend Margaret Della. And with that, I will say I went way over the 3 minutes. Thank you for having me. God bless America. I'm just gonna go sit in the back. Thank you.
Here's a question.
Julie, Marty's got a question, I think, for the center.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator, for being here. I have written to your office twice on behalf of the board. I can't find the number, but we have voted unanimously to question why the state Senate passed a resolution last year. It died at the end of the session, and the assembly hasn't taken it up yet. So it's pretty much dead at the moment. But nearly unanimously, the state Senate passed forwarded a resolution to reduce the size requirement of quorums for community boards on the basis, and it's in the open meetings law, that we are only advisory and therefore no big deal. I found, and I've asked the board and they voted in favor of it. It's insulting. We know we're advisory. The city tells us that all the time. We want to know, why the Senate believes we have to put that in writing to rub it in our nose. And two, why a quorum should be dropped from 50% to 25% when used on Zoom. We also think that that's a bit of an insult in terms of the integrity of becoming a board member. So I say I've written to all our state legislators. I've only heard back from one of them who supports our position, but I haven't heard from your office, and I'd like to hope that you would review the letter that was sent, I think twice, once in June and once in September. And we hope we have your support.
Well, first of all, I'm not aware, I wasn't aware that had come, but I will make sure to check in with my team right now. And you will, and I think I know the one that you're talking about. I think it might not, it was probably a resolution that related to extending the ability of community boards and other organizations across the state to continue to meet virtually in part. I think that's the one that you might be talking about, but regardless of which one it is, I will make sure that I look at that correspondence, and you will get a response from me within 2 weeks at most. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator. And congratulations, Laura and Margaret. Well deserved, both of you. I'm going to acknowledge and vote to Assemblyman Jeffrey Dillis.
See that everything's actually here. See that Elise is actually here now.
I don't like mics, but I do like speaking. Okay. Wow, we started the clock already. It's unbelievable. Okay, I'm gonna go through things quickly to stay as much as I can close to the time. I did want to acknowledge Chris Calhoun, who was a valuable member of the board and a really great guy. I know everybody here will miss him. So I attended an event last night at Central Park, a memorial, because it was October 7th, exactly 1 year after the horrific terrorist attack in Israel, which killed over 1,200 people and kidnapped over 250 people, and many people were raped and other horrific things. And it was really a wonderful gathering of thousands and thousands of people, and there were similar events around the city, and it was really a positive event. We heard from the parents of a hostage, for example. We heard from somebody who survived the Nova massacre that day, and just a number of others. And of course, there were like officials and clergy. There was a lot of song that happened, and yet at the same time that all that was taking place, some organizations decided that yesterday would have been a good day to demonstrate in favor of the ending of the state of Israel. And it was, honestly, it was kind of disgusting, people waving flags from Hezbollah or Hamas, but the event was a very positive event, and I know many people in our community participated in it, as well as other events that have taken place over the past few days. I also want to compliment DOT, I guess they're not here, but we receive reports frequently, unfortunately, of anti-Semitic graffiti in our community. Sometimes our office actually goes out and cleans it up ourselves if it's, small enough on a stop sign where we can take, nail polish, remove it, erase it. But, and I know the councilman's office has worked to get some of the bigger graffitis removed, but DOT has been really cooperative on that. I also want to mention we had hundreds of people in the community participating in our 2 shredding events that we had in Community Board 8 in the past couple of weeks. One on Johnson Avenue, one on Kingsbridge Avenue in front of my office. And I'm always amazed by how happy people are to cleanse themselves of all the stuff that they accumulate, but I'm always equally amazed at how much stuff they accumulate. I've done a lot of that myself. I wanted to mention, I know it's been out there, but the funding that I secured this past legislative session to be amalgamated, which is going through really hard times, $10 billion. I know it'll take the bureaucracy, but it's going to help contribute towards what I hope is really a renaissance here at the amalgamated, and this is possibly the most amazing housing complex anywhere. And I say that having lived in the community my entire life, my family lived here, but it just has a tradition of activism that is so important for the community. I also want to mention, since Marty Wolper brought it up, that this proposal to reduce the quorum to 25%, I never heard of such a thing. That what that means, it's like an invitation for people not to show up to meetings, and it makes no sense to me. I assume it will be brought up again next year, and I can tell you that I'll do anything I can to block it. And I kind of have a big mouth about stuff like that, so I hope you can prevent that from happening. If anything, I want to see more people show up at meetings, not fewer. I don't want to talk about the city of Yes, that's a total city issue. I don't want to, preempt anybody else, but I got to tell you, you'd think with all the construction going on in our community right now that they already passed the city of Yes. There is no limit to the amount of new buildings being built, the amount of single family homes being torn down. And I've always been pretty good at math. So I haven't figured out how the following math works. There are supposedly tens of thousands of vacant apartments in New York City, and there are supposedly a few 100,000 people have left the city in the past 3 or 4 or 5 years. So given that, I'm trying to figure out how there's such a tremendous housing shortage, and maybe there is a housing shortage. I think what we really have is less a housing crisis and more an affordability crisis. But to me, the answer is not build, because I don't know that that's going to bring down rents. The answer is to build affordable housing, and that's not what's being talked about for the most part. So I think that's something we really have to think about. Probably the last thing I want to mention is I will also weigh in on the ballot proposals, and I think we're in agreement. Ballot proposal number 1 is certainly something you should look at, learn about. I know the city sent out material within the past week or so on the ballot proposals. And when you vote, and you're all voting, right? Okay. When you vote, you just gotta turn over your ballot. When you vote, what you do is you look at the front of your ballot, you start at the bottom, find assembly, and then work your way up. And then you turn over the ballot, and that's where the ballot proposals are. And so ballot one is equal rights amendment, and I won't tell anybody how to vote, except I'm voting yes on that. It's very important. And the other 5 proposals, that's 2 through 6, those are city charter amendments that, in my opinion, were put there mostly to block the city council from putting, from themselves putting something on the ballot, because if the city council has a charter proposal and to put on the ballot, the mayor, merely by having a charter commission and then putting out proposals, knocks the city council stuff out. And the proposals that they are putting forth, I don't really think make a lot of sense. It's sort of like just a way to stop anything else from happening. So I hope people don't get, getting boosted into voting for that. So I'm voting no on the other 5 as well. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Questions?
Oh. Where's the bottom one? Oh, there it is.
Oh, no, there's a question.
Thank you. Looking at that.
Hi, why are you against number 2, which basically consolidates the power of cleaning under the Department of Sanitation, even if it's, say, MTA adjacent-ish property, that then they act like, oh, well, we can't maybe clean that because it's the MTA, and it seems to make a lot of sense. The proposal is literally sanitation department is in charge of cleaning, which sounds
Right.
wonderful as
Points of information. I really hate saying this, but when the city charter was being revised a time ago, we got a letter from the law department saying we could not, once it's on the ballot, we cannot lobby. So I just want to be careful that we don't cross that line. And regardless of how we may feel.
Well, you're right, but he's asking, well, so as 2 reasons. One is most proposals that are put on the ballot will tend to sound good. That's just the way things are done. But I, for one, don't like to see the manipulation of which is what I think has happened here. I believe that those ballot proposals will put on the ballot 100% to block anything that the city council want them to do. And I don't necessarily agree with what the city council want them to do, by the way. I'm not sure that it was such a hot idea to mandate that every single or most commissioners, proposed commissioners have to go through these ridiculous hearings. It's anything similar to what just happened in the Corporation Council. But I don't think the purpose of putting something on the ballot should be to kind of manipulate the outcome of something else. If these are such good proposals, maybe the city hall and the council should get together and try to figure out which among them might make sense in the future.
I see Chuck Martin has his hand up.
I didn't see Chuck Martin.
Chuck?
Yeah. I'm not sure I agree with the Corporation Council. I don't think he carries anything more than an advisory opinion that we do. I don't agree with him on the merits. I think my First Amendment rights to speak are not going to be trampled upon by what was clearly a political act rather than an act of a lawyer on the behalf of his then mayor. So I don't give it any credence at all.
Thank you, Chuck. Any other questions?
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. Good to be here.
Thank you. We just want to go back to the borough president's office. Alexis Ruiz is present. Alexis?
Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here with you all virtually. Good evening. I hope that you're all staying safe and doing well. Welcome back to our board members and welcome to the new community board members. I'm excited for your journey. The latest Borough President's report has been emailed. So if you haven't received it, please let me know or reach out to your chair and your DM. The BP announced today a joint $6 million capital allocation with Speaker Hasty and Assemblymember Septimo to combat the opioid epidemic in the borough. And this $6 million investment will support the opening of an opioid recovery and bridge clinic at Lincoln Hospital. So that's big. It's amazing. Also, the BP joined NYPD Deputy Chief Ramsey, DYCD, and other leaders on the steps of Borough Hall last month to announce her fiscal year 2025 allocation of nearly $400,000 for new state-of-the-art surveillance cameras and a new mobile command van to support public safety efforts in the borough. Also, BP Gibson and the Bronx Tourism Council celebrated 30 years of cycling in our borough. Tour de Bronx was amazing, so thank you to everyone who participated. A special shout out to David Gelman. And we are looking forward to an even bigger Tour de Bronx next year. I just want to mention one more thing. We have a Reso A funding information session event. That's Thursday, October 10th from 4:30 to 8 p.m. and that'll be at Borough Hall, so 851 Grand Concourse. If you all need information or you're interested and you don't know much, we would love to see you at this event. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Alexis.
Julie?
Yes? David?
Alexis, and you are gonna ride it next year, right? That's what you said.
Okay, and I understand Councilmember Eric Dinowitz is also online,
His office is online.
his office, okay. Okay, so then we'll skip and go on to, are there any other elected officials present? The representatives may have a chance to speak at the end of the meeting. If time permits, are there any elected officials online who so please raise their hand? Or even present? Okay, so then we'll go on to roll call.
Sylvia Alexander.
Present.
Debbie Allen. President.
Constant Barnes Watson.
President.
Bob Bender is absent. Carol Blake. Kelly Buford.
President.
Joy Campbell Privateer.
Present.
Sebastian Chilapoli. Lee Chong is absent. Dr. Wayne is absent. Ingrid De Leon. Margaret Ella present. Johanna Edmondson. Nicholas Fazio. Stephen Booth is absent. David Gelman.
Present.
Mary Ellen Gibbs.
President.
Rosemary Ginty is absent. Dr. Julia Gomez.
President.
Edward Green.
President.
Emily Houseman is absent. Rashida Hilliard.
Here.
Barbara Kale. Rabbi Kaplan is absent. Josh Land is absent. Oscar Martinez. Charles Smirner is absent. Omar
I'm
Martin
here.
is absent. Angel Ortega. Julie Reyes. Present. Adriana Rivera. Daniel Rowan.
Here.
Georgia Santiago.
Absent. She's absent.
Rambat Singh is absent. Jessica Sosa.
Here.
Laura Spalter.
Present.
Cesar Tovar Acosta. Jill Towns is absent. Deborah Travis.
President.
Sergio Villaverde is absent. Kevin Wade is absent. Karen Walker is absent. Martin Wolpa.
President.
We only have 20 board members, so quorum has not yet been met.
Budget.
Okay, so then we cannot do the approval of the September minutes. Any discussions on the executive minutes? That's no votes, but just discussions. Okay.
You okay? Okay, just wait a minute.
Okay, so then. We go on to the chairperson's report.
I don't know if you have, because there's one thing I forgot to mention that we're gonna do on the 16th, so I just want to say it real quickly.
Okay.
Because since you're not doing this thing. So on the 16th, I forgot to mention it a little early. This is hot, Mike. On the 16th at 3 p.m. From 3 to 5, we're actually doing, my office is doing a virtual discussion on community funding. We've done a couple of versions of it in the last couple of years. This is an open invitation to any nonprofit, community-based organization, et cetera, that wants to know about government funding that comes from the state senate. And we walk people through what types of funding there are, the timeline as to when you can make the requests, the criteria for each one of the funding, et cetera. So it's an opportunity for folks to know how to ask us for money, because we have state money and we want to make sure we get it to the organizations that deserve it. So that's going to be on the 16th from 3 to 5, and you can always reach out to my office for more information. Since I had one more minute, I just wanted to mention it. Thank you so much, Madam.
Thank you. And do you still have virtual meetings on Fridays, Senator?
Say again?
Do you still have virtual meetings on Fridays, your office? That ended?
Yes, we did them a couple of times, and we will do them again, but not for long.
Just checking. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, my report, as Assemblyman Dinowitz mentioned, we would like to extend our condolences to the family and friends of the recent passing. Chris Calhoun was a great board member. And okay, so the rest of our report, I'd like to thank our vice chair. Why don't you give your report?
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year to those who celebrate. I also want to say that it is with a heavy heart that we learned of the passing. I was away and was really devastated to hear of the passing of board member Chris Calhoun. He will be greatly missed. He was a star attraction at our tabling events, where he was always the first to volunteer and bring his humor to any event he joined on. He tabled with us just recently at the Fort Independence MMCC Back to School event, and it really won't be the same without him. He's definitely going to be missed. I do also want to thank Artie, Jalen, and Lawrence Balter, who tabled at the Intech Academy Welcome Back to Students event in September. And we will be continuing to do more events throughout the year. Our next event will be Boo on Mashaloo, Saturday, October 26th. I'll send out a request for volunteers shortly. The event's from 1 to 4, and I am working on hopefully doing our Thanksgiving turkey giveaway event in November. I'll send more information on that when I get it. And yeah, we have the Oscar Martinez has volunteered his football team to help us carry the list. So we should definitely have it. I did work with my fellow district managers, meeting with the city agencies set up by the office of the budget office to discuss the answers they gave for our borough-wide questions on issues and projects. I did send the respective committee chairs the questions and answers we received, and from each agency, and I did forward it to some of your committees as requested by the chairs. I do want to thank David Gelman for attending the first two meetings also while I was away, so thank you. Chairperson Reyes and I have been meeting with our elected officials, and next we meet with Councilmember Sanchez and are continuing to do so to go over our budget needs and community issues in their districts, and we're hoping to meet with Senator Rivera at some point as well. I recently did a walkthrough to address the overgrowth of Halfmoon Overlook with Parks Forestry Unit, and they're gonna give a proposal for the cost if we can get discretionary funds with our electeds and to do the overtime work needed for this. This will go through the Parks Committee. I did hold my district service cabinet meeting, and if you have any issues you want me to address for my next one, I'll be holding that on November 6th. We are working on our newsletter, it'll be ready shortly. And I also just want to reiterate to our chairs that it's so important to have the minutes, to have the resolutions, to have your agendas within a time frame that makes us in compliance. It's very hard for us to do things last minute. And if you need any help, we are here for that, but we do need you to be more mindful of the timing of doing the minutes, the agendas, and your resolutions. And thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. I would just like to say, I'd like to thank Vice Chair Verde for representing the community board on the co-naming ceremony of Betty and Lloyd Adams of Lloyd's Carrot Cake. Also like to acknowledge the work conducted by the board's community coordinator, Artie Melzoon. Thank you. I know you had assistance with Jay, but I know you worked a lot while Farrah was busy. Oh, but thank you. And in attempts to get more participation from the community, and as you can see from our own board members, to show up to committee meetings, PG board meetings, I'd like to ask everyone to start connecting with the board's social media websites and start liking, sharing, joining, whatever. I'm not a techie, but whatever you have to do to just spread the word in your own websites, your social media sites, so that the community can start getting some information. The staff puts a lot of good information for the community and the residents, and we really need them to be more informed and engaged. And if they can't come in person to a meeting, at least on Zoom, because even our Zoom attendance, I think it's lacking. So, anything you can do to help us get the word out, all suggestions are always welcome. Yes,
On social media, we're on Facebook. Are we on any other platforms?
Well, we just starting with Instagram. I'm not Twitter. We're having this discussion. We haven't really tweeted too much, but we do everything on Facebook at the moment, and we will also include Instagram on that.
and that's something that we're going to be working with at the next exec. We'll get into more of a discussion too on the outreach, because we definitely need more participation. And that's it for my report. Any questions? Okay, so the treasurer's report.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year to those who are celebrating. This is the Treasurer's Report for October 2025. As a reminder, item 1, our budget for this year is $22,483, of which 18,546 is remaining. The breakout of that 18,546 can be found in item 1.1. Item 1.2, there are no budget mods for this month. Item 1.3, the board has zero in requested funds and 0 in encumbered funds. And finally, item 1.4, rent and energy detail, 31,644 is remaining. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Any questions? Okay, so then we're gonna go on to the committee reports and resolutions. Please be mindful of the time when you're giving your report. If the information is miscellaneous in the minutes, most board members hopefully will have read the minutes. And during the course of discussions, please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged, so we can have a good conversation going back and forth. So the first report will be environment and sanitation. Daniel?
Okay, but I guess we're not doing any resolutions.
Not at the moment because we can't vote on it. Anything
Okay.
else?
So then I am not bringing a resolution up. Yeah, it's fine. There would have been a resolution, but I don't have to talk about it now.
Marty?
How short are we on quorum?
Great.
I just want to remind you that the resolution we passed last month for ADA, those people for whom you are aware and have granted such, they would count toward the quorum.
Yes.
I can see only one, so I don't see three.
And then who else? Chuck is counted.
Chuck's right there.
Yeah, but he's not counted, because he's not 88.
There's Georgia and Sylvia and Lee. Georgia, Sylvia and Lee and
Barbara.
Barbara Kale. So if you like, it's totally up to you if you want to at least discuss it. But the one time we have time. Yeah, we can vote. So you could discuss it so people have it.
I mean, it passed to the committee. I think we'll just send it as a letter if we can't vote now, because it's kind of the period, the comment period is now. It was just to urge the EPA to continue cleaning up the Hudson River because there's still PCB in the fish. And I have all the studies if you want to know. I think that was asked about of what this is based on, but we passed it in committee, and so we'll just send it as a letter, and so it's not a big pressing thing. The only main thing is that now your organics compost put out is with your recycling, effective this week. So if you did compost, if you separate your compost, yeah, your brown bins go out on the same day as recycling now, as of this week, which means for at least me, it switches it. It used to be on its own day.
Okay, does anyone have any questions?
That's the big news. Anything else? The next meeting will be in November, and we're going to talk about flooding, and the DEP will be there to talk about flooding with us.
Is this a timely thing that can't wait until the next board meeting?
Yeah, the public comment period actually closed like today, but I figured, well, but if we're passing it today, we send it along, that's close enough.
Go to the letter.
So it might as well just be a letter.
Go to the letter. Thank you.
And that's
Oh,
it.
did you want?
Not for my committee, I just want to, in honor of Chris, just kind of point out that number 6 on our capital budget requests was a very important thing to him, of getting lighting in the Marble Hill Playground area. That was something, I guess he said, why he joined, I think, the Parks Committee for that. So I would just like to always support that measure. Not that we're voting on these today, I guess.
So we can still discuss, but
Yeah.
David will discuss it in the
Oh,
budget.
okay. So that was the wrong time, I'm sorry.
No, it's never wrong. It's never wrong.
How'd you like me?
Our.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, Special Committee on Veteran Services. Julia's reporting.
Against. Not sure how this works now. We're trying to give a veteran an award in November. We discussed and fine-tuned the criteria in the last meeting. But the Memorial Grove, which you guys should all come out, it's a great event. I can give you the whole history, but for those of you who've heard it 7 times, I'm not going to repeat it for the 8th. That's coming up, I believe, November 3rd. So I don't know if we'll have, I don't know how this works now.
Well, it can always be given out at a later date, you know, we can't vote on it now, so So the Memorial Grove is November 3rd at 12 o'clock, correct?
Yes.
And then aren't isn't your committee working jointly asking for cleanup volunteers?
Yes, Margaret is not, so I'm gonna assume that she knows what's going on,
The
yes.
24th and the 31st. Email was sent out to board members. Yeah, the email was sent out to the board members, so if anyone's available, join the Veterans Services Committee.
And for everything else, see the minutes, thanks, bye.
Thank you, Julian. We'll go on to public safety. Catherine.
Good evening, everybody. I just, before anything, like Julie and Farah before, I just wanted to acknowledge the passing of Chris Calhoun. He was a member of the Public Safety Committee, great guy, and, you know, I just really got to know him the last couple of years. I've hung out with him a couple of times. Just a fun person. I was at his wake, and the feeling at his wake was like him. It was, everybody was, you know, as sad as we were to see him go, everybody had that sense of joy that he exhibited whenever you were around him. So we lost a good community board member and a good friend. So with that, the Public Safety Committee, we met on September 17th. And I would refer the board and the public to our minutes for more detail. But we have 7 resolutions. From what I understand, we can't vote on now, but I would like to discuss this a little bit to flush this out. So we had 3 renewals, 2 new applications and temporary retail permits, a third new application and a corporate change. The committee voted unanimous. Do I sound like I'm in a cave or something? The committee voted unanimously on all of them, and for disapproval on one of them. And I just think it's unfortunate. I've been on the board since 2018, and I don't remember one time where we didn't have a quorum at this meeting, at the full board meeting. This is the first time I can remember. If it happened, I just certainly don't remember it. And it's very unfortunate because a lot of these resolutions are, you know, they're time sensitive, and our committee generally doesn't disapprove applications. Most of our the businesses in the community are solid businesses, and we don't really hear too many complaints or problems about any of them. But we had one that had was up for renewal, and which a lot of people here I'm sure are familiar with, which was Tijuana Nights. And the committee voted unanimously to disapprove this based on well, I don't have the exact numbers. I have them here somewhere, but it's something to the effect of 131 complaints. It had, well, I'll read the resolution. So, well, I won't read the whole resolution, but it had 101 311 calls, 29 911 calls, 64 summonses. You guys all have it in front of you. You can read it. We disapproved it, and it would be a shame for us not to be able to send a board resolution disapproving this business to SLA. What I would like to do, and you guys can tell me if I'm out of order in terms of Robert's rules or anything, but I think it's appropriate that we send a letter stating that the committee, well, the committee passed the resolution, even though the board doesn't pass the resolution because of quorum issues. We can say that the committee passed a resolution stating that we disapprove that, and I think we had agreed that myself and the board chair, Julie Reyes, would send a letter also stating, you know, what's been going on with this business for years. So, you know, in light of us not being able to pass a resolution, that would be my proposal, and unless anybody has any issues with that.
We will send a letter with the committee resolution and stating so, with all the facts given.
Okay, and that aside, that is, hold on one second. That aside, the same kind of, since we can't vote on any of these resolutions, the same would apply I would like to send a letter to SLA stating that the committee approved these other resolutions, but weren't able to do so at the board because of quorum issues. I think Julia has a question.
I just want to make sure, because I know we had an issue 2 years ago where like one person was making all the complaints. I'm pretty sure that's not what's happening here. I just want to put it like out there that this is multiple people, because that one business had like 60 complaints from one person. Okay, just if we're sending a letter, just making sure.
Absolutely, yeah, I wish it was only one person, then we wouldn't have a problem like they do. So our next public safety meeting is, Tuesday, October 15th, 50th precinct. It's, in person, there's no Zoom. And, I hope we have a pretty big committee now. We have a new addition to our committee. Carol Blake is, right? Carol Blake is our new member, to our committee, and I hope everybody shows up because, this is disappointing to not have a quorum at this meeting because, we got business to do that's being held up. So that's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Jessica, you had a question?
Not a specific question, but I do condone the idea of sending the letter. Can we do that for all the resolutions? Because we don't have quorum and we can't vote on some of these resolutions, I'd be concerned about different, like the SAPO application for the homecoming event. That's
We're gonna do committee by committee, each chair will report.
perfect. I just wanted to make sure that, right, not just.
We have to hear the report first, we can't do like a blanket, so let's, committee by committee, we'll look at everything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Traffic and transportation. Kelly said she would report, thank you, Kelly. I thought you were done.
I can leave if you like.
No.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to echo everyone's sentiments on the passing of Chris Calhoun. During my tenure as chair of the Traffic and Transportation Committee, Chris served as my vice chair and he proved very invaluable. It was always great when we got to meetings and Chris alerted us to new traffic lights that were installed in the district. He will be missed immensely, I'm sure, by the committee, but he will also be missed by me. And I know he's smiling down on us right now. On a bit of a lighter note, the Traffic and Transportation Committee met on September 19th. It passed 2 resolutions. One was a SAPO application for the Horace Mann School to hold this homecoming, which is scheduled for October 19th. That passed unanimously. And Julie and Brad, if you could, please, we would really appreciate if you could send a letter on behalf of for that event.
We will.
Okay,
Yeah.
if this.
SAPOs, we have given the committee vote in the past and follow up with the full board vote, just so they have some kind of recommendations, but.
Okay, thank you. And the second matter that was presented at the Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting was the approval of the outdoor dining packet for Casa Tobala Corp. at 3732 Riverdale Avenue. That did not pass unanimously. There were 2 1 abstention and 2 that opposed, but it did pass nevertheless. And again, I would ask that you send a letter because that application was time sensitive. They needed a response by the end of the month. The next Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting will be November 21. The TNT committee is not meeting in the month of October due to religious observances. And thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. And we will do that for the letters. Law, rules and ethics, Marty.
Thank you. There is There's good news and strange news. The strange news is that I had a conversation with Audie today based on our recollections of last month's meeting. I requested a month extension on the resolution allowing for ADA participation. In the belief that when we met LRE, we would come up with a resolution for this meeting. I was not cognizant of the fact that we'd have to change the date. And so LRE is not meeting until the end of the month. But the recollection is Sergio suggested that it not have a time limit. And I know what I said, and I already quoted what I said, but what I believe I meant was that while Sergio recommended the no time limit, and I had no problem with his recommendation, it was that I was fearful that if we didn't hold LRE's feet to the fire, we might go on for month after month after month. Well, I'm just suggesting this because of the concern that we don't have a quorum to extend it again, and I have no resolution to bring forward, but I do have good news. If I can find it quickly, the good news is that I contacted and Chuck has said, don't worry about them, but I contacted the law department and I got a very rapid response. And the law department said, oh, come on. The law department wrote to me, this has come up before, and we've advised that members of a public body can be granted temporary disability status for a condition which prevents them from attending a meeting in person for a time. I hope this addressed your issue. So in effect, what we have been asking for, we have the blessings of the law department. And at this moment, we can't vote, but LRE will meet in 2 weeks. We will come up with a resolution, and the resolution is really to establish parameters. What does it mean? What authority do we want the chair to have exclusively or to share with people, or whatever process we come up with? And next month, I will ask you to vote for a resolution, which will do what we've allowed, but know how we do it.
Thank you, Marty. Any questions? Daniel?
So I was also under the impression when voting last month that you had agreed to that friendly amendment, that we were voting on it as without the time limit.
Sergio and I spoke, and we both believe that that's what happened. But Artie is right. I did say we want to hold our feet to the fire, and so it could be interpreted. So we can't vote, but the interpretation is that we extended it until needed, then everyone I mentioned who might be online now can be counted for the quorum and vote. But there are not enough of them to make a difference.
Yeah. Okay. So now we'll go on to budget. David Yeoman.
Thank you. I too would like to add some comments about Chris. We became good friends. We pretty much did almost every tabling event together, and we commiserated as two of the only Met fans in all of Bronx County, and some other knuckleheads. We would give this guy a hard time about all of his pinstripe paraphernalia. I think Chris would have had a tough week or two seeing what the Mets have been doing to all their fans, but we would have had a good laugh over it as well. So we did have the budget hearing earlier this evening. There were no community comments about it. We do need to have our priorities and enter them into the OMB system by month end. We can't actually vote on, but well, let me step back a moment. You all have had the opportunity to see these priorities for quite some time. Is there anyone here of the board members who have a particular change that they want to see to the 21 capital budget request for fiscal year 26 and the 24 expense requests? Yes, Julie.
No, I recognize people, so I'm gonna recognize myself first. At the public hearing, they did have a person speak because I mentioned that we would be looking to add items from the aging committee and from the health and hospital.
But nobody from the community forwarded that. But if you want to bring something up now and talk about where they would fit in their priority or just put it at the back of the list, that's fine.
Well, I'll let the agent, since the agent chair is here first, I'll let the agent chair go first, and then I'll speak on behalf of the health and hospital, unless someone here from the health and hospital committee wants to.
Hi, good evening. Number one was the transportation for older adult center, Riverdale Senior Service Center, Agency, Department for Aging, DAFTA. Listed as number 4 and 23 in the FR 2025 and 2024 CBA budget request. Number 2, increased funding.
Well, let's take them one at a time. Where do you propose inserting that within the capital budget request? Is it a capital budget request or an expense budget?
That would be a capital.
Okay, where do you suggest inserting it in the existing priority order?
I would put that as number 1.
Over everything?
Oh, no. Well,
I'm asking you, where do you see inserting it
okay.
in the 21
Okay, David,
priorities?
this is my first time on saying this, so maybe we can go a little easier. Wherever it can be placed in right now, because it is in the end, but it really, they did request it. It wasn't put in by the chair last year, but it was discussed and voted on by the committee. Julie?
Barry, are you aware of any aging committee vote on these priorities?
I didn't get to the next one, but.
Well, there was at the Methodist home, you did.
I was gonna say that one, he didn't give me a chance to that second one yet, but
Yeah,
can I say the second one? Because part of that vote was to increase funding for programs in older adult centers in CBA, i.e. the Methodist Garden Agency, Department for Aging, listed as number 1 and 4 in FR 2025 and 2024 CB8 budget request.
Okay, again, I ask, where do you recommend inserting them?
And as I said, I'm new to this, so I wouldn't know exactly where to place it, because this is the first. It's being put in now because the last chair that did not.
It doesn't matter, we're just putting it in now.
Right, thank you. So I'm, Julie, I don't know where to tell me to put it.
For transportation, the first item that they're looking to do, the transportation for older adult centers, such as Riverdale Senior Service, and other centers around here. They're in desperate need of transportation, and that was voted unanimously by the aging committee at their last meeting, and it was listed number 4 previously, so I would insert it somewhere in the top 5 for transportation. Riverdale Senior Services also discussed at that meeting, at the previous meeting, that they would even consider meeting with the Riverdale Light, even shared transportations, because it's very difficult for the seniors to get around. And they service a large part of the board, like even areas like here, they would pick people up and bring them over to the senior centers. So the first item, the transportation, I would say anywhere in the top 5, 10.
And now it was a third one, but
Let's do one by one.
that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
I went to the second. And then the third one, it wasn't voted on by the committee. It was requested by a community, which was on the list before and passed, list. Request to the board office from a community resident, increase funding for older adult housing, which I think is very, very important. Agency Housing Preservation, HPD, listed as number 2 and 16 in FR 2025 and 2024 CBA budget requests. So these are the 3 that are requested. And Ed, oh, I'm sorry.
Ed?
So you stated that it was in the top 5 or 4 last year, and I'm just looking at this is capital we're talking, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so, I mean, I hate stepping on anybody's committee, but, you got 2 TNTs in the top 5. So my suggestion would be to push that TNT, that's currently at 5 down 1, or push everyone down 1 and put, the aging committee's proposal in at number 5. That would be my suggestion, only because they have 2 in there already.
But the TNT chair is not here to discuss it. This is why we met on this weeks ago. We've been discussing this for months. The aging committee was made well aware of the time frame. I personally spoke to the aging chair. Julie, our chair, personally spoke to the aging chair. These things just slipped by.
Okay.
And so we are trying to find a way to accommodate them. And I would recommend that, given the timing of the evening and the year, that these items be added to our list at the back, like several others are. And hopefully the relevant chairs will consider the prioritization and get involved with it more earlier, to present it to the budget committee, to the chair and the district manager months earlier, so that the budget committee, which is essentially our executive committee, can contemplate all of the requirements, not all of a sudden going really from 21 to 4 or 5. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's just. I don't think it's appropriate to come in so late when the chairs were reminded to have these things inserted, 3 here, and then I think there are another 2 or 4 or 5 coming out of health and hospitals. They're all valid stuff. And I have seen them on the top of the list in the past, but I don't think it's fair to the other committees and all their good hard work, and all the other chairs and all their good hard work, to just simply insert somewhat randomly.
Okay,
And
so
there.
now I'm going to just acknowledge 3 people in order. Okay, so I'm gonna acknowledge 3 people in order, and then I'll take the mic back from Margaret, because I'm gonna relinquish myself and follow myself first. And I would just say, I agree with Ed. Looking at it, TNT has 3 items as top 10. I would recommend putting it either 5 or 6 and just move everyone down. Easy. We can have, it's recommended to put at least 40 items and 25 items on a list. We only have 21 in capital, so we have more than enough room to go. I don't think that the public, the community, should be penalized on the lack or on the misgivings of the board's actions. I think we're beyond that. Yes, it's late, but the community should not suffer just because they were late. So let's just stick to the subject and see where we can insert these crucial items for the seniors. We have to advocate for them. So I would suggest either slot number 5 or 6, that would just move everyone down one on the item for the increasing funding for programs, we're doing capital for the transportations. For the older adult centers, I agree with it, let's put it either number 5 or 6, everyone goes down one, and let's move on. Julia?
I'm just gonna shout because you didn't, is there any
No, the
precedent
people
for
on
this?
Zoom. the people
I'm
on-
sorry?
Is there any precedent for this? Like, has this never happened before?
No,
It's never happened.
nobody has failed to get in their budget requests, in April, May. I'll be fair, May, but this is now 4 months later.
Heard you, so I like.
Correction, this has been done before because the purpose of voting on it is to put them in order, move things around.
No, the submissions. She's asking about submitting them at all.
Like, putting them down.
Right,
Because if there's
never
precedent,
before.
then maybe we should do whatever we did last time. But also like procedurally, can we even do anything about it? Because we don't have quorum and the relevant parties aren't here.
That's
Like,
without,
I
that,
understand what you're saying, 100%, but if I'm remembering correctly, we usually had to agree and vote, like, I don't disagree with the logic. I just don't know procedurally that we can all agree for people who aren't here that this is okay.
this is what I was getting at before.
This, then it means nothing, then it's just a pack up and go home. But we need some feedback because we're submitting something until we find out legally what we can do. So in the meantime, let's get something together that we'll find out legally what we can do. But just like, we can't even submit this because we don't even have a quorum to vote on it. So since we don't have a quorum to vote on it, let's just at least get an idea so that we'll check with the legal department and find out where do we go from here, because our community needs to be represented and we need to tell the agencies what they need. Mary Ellen and then Laura.
They weren't on there, I was assuming that, like, chair had put that, these items on. And we, as Julie had said, we cannot penalize any agency or any, aging adult community. You know, because that wasn't done, these things, these items need, especially the transportation, they're so lacking, they really explained to us why they really need this transportation. They take seniors to their doctor's appointments that can't get there. They do a lot of field trips, you know, to get them out doing things,
Okay, we got it. Thank you, Mary Ellen. Okay. Laura?
I just want to say that it's critical that every committee be represented on this capital and expense list, every committee. And if there were process screw-ups or whatever, this is the time and this is the place to rectify it. And that the community cannot suffer because of some, procedures that should have been, woulda, shoulda, coulda. The critical thing for the board is to represent every committee. Thank you. So I agree with Julie.
Julie,
Yes, thank you.
well, let me clarify. The job here is not to represent every community, every committee, it's to represent every part of the community. And so to that extent, I would agree with you. It is important for us to realize that we put a great deal of effort, and the various chairs put in a great deal of effort to get these done. And what you're doing is ignoring the work that was done by others, and you're discounting it. I mean, just a few minutes ago, somebody was saying how important it was to recognize Chris's work in advancing number 6. Well, okay, it's already been denigrated by at least one. I appreciate the desire to want to include these other inputs from the other committees. But I think we have to also recognize the hard efforts that were actually put in and executing the various committee meetings and coming up with lists, and then the work that you, me, and Farah did to try to do it.
What's important right now is that we we're gonna take a consensus. Sylvia has her hand up, and then I'm gonna take a consensus.
Well, actually,
Oh,
Julie, what I said at the beginning is that I would defer to the end, that particular discussion. We cannot vote on this because of quorum. However, if you let me finish,
no, because you interrupted me, I was talking. I said that we are going to take a consensus after I acknowledge Sylvia and Chuck. Does Chuck have his hand up? Sylvia and Chuck have their hands up. We both spoke more than once, so we're gonna.
but I am the chair of the committee and I'm presenting my report. I'm trying to get.
Want to get this moving along. We're not gonna-
Oh, so you don't actually need a committee chair. You'll run the meeting. Be my guest. Be my guest. Be my guest. Be my guest.
It's like, I'm told, and we have the law, rules and ethics here. I am supposed to call on people. I believe that's what I was
Marty,
told.
is that true? During a committee report? By a chair?
Chair of the board. She has a role who is called upon who speaks. She has the right to do what she's doing.
Okay,
So I'm gonna call on Sylvia, then Chuck, and if anyone else wants to speak on this issue, I'm gonna take a consensus, because I don't know what we could do legally, but I know I could take a consensus to see if everyone, or some or none, want to put in the transportation somewhere in the top 10.
the consensus is what I was going to recommend.
I'm having thoughts on you. You're calling on Sylvia, then Chuck, and then a consensus. Sylvia, go ahead.
As far as this situation is concerned, it is very unusual. However, I do have to say that I last year changed one of my items in place for the libraries, and that was granted. Did aging submit anything from the old chair? Is there some way that they can change one of their items to the one that we want?
They didn't submit anything.
Don't have anything from aging other than what's presented tonight.
It can't be done?
And right now, we're discussing
I
the
can't hear.
transportation for older adults, to put it into the capital budget, item number 5 or 6. Chuck, you have a hand up?
Let me just make a very simple point. There comes a point where everybody has had more than ample opportunity to consider, to act, to speak, and enough. This is too late to do that kind of thing. The Budget Committee has worked long and hard to get this done. I really think messing around with it, order of priorities at this stage, is really something that can only be done in an emergency. That's my view.
Thank you, Chuck. And this is an emergency because the aging people are not represented in our budget. So if anyone has no other questions or comments, I'd just like to take a consensus if, for those who would be agreeable to put it in item number, what did you say? Number 5. And that would just move everyone down. TNT would still have 3 in the top 11. Is anyone against that? David and Danny. Okay, great, thank you. So let's,
Any abstentions?
this isn't a vote. I'm just doing a consensus.
I have concerns about this.
I'm doing a consensus because I have to find out what we can actually do. But at least I'll know I have a consensus from the board. And Kelly?
It's not about this issue, is the budget, report completed?
No.
Okay, I have a question because at the TNT, even though I'm not the chair, since Julie asked me earlier, I'm giving myself those rights. At the last TNT meeting and also in the June meeting, when we voted on the budget items, during my tenure, it was discussed that for the step streets, a letter would be prepared and sent on behalf of the district. I just want to make sure that that has happened or that is in the process of being done.
That's not in the purview of budget. That would be up to the chair and the district manager.
Okay, but we discussed it in the purview of budget, that it was taken out of the budget requests that would be submitted to the various agencies, and it was determined that that was going to be addressed in a separate. David, I see your hand, and right now I'm actually offended because you keep gesturing, and I know who I'm speaking to, and I'm speaking to both the budget chair, the chair of the board, and the district manager.
Okay.
Because that is what was discussed, and I want to make sure that that gets addressed in the proper fashion. Because as we all know, step streets are an integral part of living in this community, and we want to make sure that it is properly addressed. If it's not being worked on, then I'm going to ask that it be included in here, because at your suggestion, it was removed from the capital request.
And the district manager was going to follow up on that.
I and Karen, I will get back to you tomorrow on that.
Thank you.
And the other two items for the aging, a consensus to put it at the end of the list. I'm taking a consensus, is anyone objecting? The other two, the programming for adults and housing preservations for older adults. A consensus, does anyone disagree not to put it at the end? Okay. And then the only other issue was a health and hospitals request to put towards the end of the list. The health and hospitals with counseling services and protective medical supplies. Anyone have a consensus only if we put it at the end of the list? And this is for expenses. Okay, that's just a consensus. Okay, David, thank you.
Hang on, I still have a report. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I just simply want to say that, so just keep in mind, the next cycle begins. So, particularly chairs, but members of the committees, kindly keep in mind that in December, you should start thinking about 2027, the fiscal year. And that you should be putting to paper, so to speak, your idea, or discussing in January, your ideas of future budget requests, capital expense. In February, putting them to paper, so to speak, or typing them up on an Excel spreadsheet or Word or whatever. And then in March, the committee should put it together an initial prioritization. And then in April, at your April meeting, you should be voting on it. Again, you actually don't have to vote, but I recommend to the chairs that you conduct a vote. I just think it's more equitable to do that. But by about the 20th of April, I'll get the date later. The budget priority requests for capital expense must be submitted to the office and to the budget chair by about April 20th.
Thank you. And I just want to say, I understand your frustration, David, because you worked a lot on this through the year. I understand your frustration. I just don't want the community to suffer because of us. I understand your frustration. I just have to say.
Never suggested that they should.
Why not add them? Okay, let's just move on.
I'm sorry.
Okay, go to educational library, Sylvia.
Hi, good evening. I just want to ask one last question on the previous item. In putting it in number 5, which I'm definitely in favor of, is everyone else moved down? Is that the way it went?
That's the only way.
What?
Everyone moved down one.
Yeah, and who was 5?
Excuse me?
who was number 5 that's moved down?
Traffic and transportation.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it.
Communication?
No, I understand. Okay, I'm good with that. I have no choice. Our next meeting is October 22nd. We did not have one in September, and hopefully we will have it then. That's my report.
Thank you, Sylvia. Health and hospitals, does anyone want to report for health and hospitals? Okay, housing, Rashida?
My report might be as short as my meeting. We had our first meeting on September 23rd, Monday, and we selected a vice chair, Lee Chung. We discussed our calendar for the rest of the year, at least putting down dates. We have changed our time from 7 to 6 p.m. Just looking around. Okay, so we're in the process of securing speakers, and since it's an election year, the theme is sort of like knowing your rights. So that's what we're looking to focus on, at least for the next meeting, which is October 28th. So mark your calendars, 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashida. And I have to say, I appreciated your meeting because though it was short, you didn't have to listen to people go say the same thing over and over. You got what you needed accomplished. You got your goals set, you got a vice chair, you guys worked on agendas and the future. So it was short, but it was productive. And I'd rather go to a short, productive meeting than a long, drawn out one where you just want to spin your head around. But thank you. Hey, you, does anyone want to report for you?
Yeah. So our meeting was September 16th. We had Janae Russell from the Department of Youth and Community Development present updates and numbers from the Summer Youth Employment Program in the district and broke down by zip code. Elected a vice chair, right, me. And our meeting is gonna be, or we preponed our meeting time from 7 to 6:30, and our next meeting is October 21st at the office.
Thank you. Thank you, sister. Okay, next is Special Committee on Racial Equity.
Just really briefly, my friend Chris, I just wanted to recognize him as well tonight because he really brought the spirit of the community forward. People just, neighbors coming together, you see things that are a problem, you just like to work with people and get stuff done. That's what we're all here to do. You know, I was really looking forward to seeing him, and I missed him in September, and I was looking forward to seeing him tonight. And so certainly just thank you all for the work that you all do, and let's just try to stick together and get stuff done. For racial equity, unfortunately, we had a couple of issues with our speakers for joint meeting with HHSS in September, and one of our presenters had a medical emergency and will not be available until the spring. So I think we're just going to, rather than convene with HHSS, that we will look to have our spring meeting in November. The date, we're just gonna look to solidify that. But we'll be focusing on our goals for the upcoming year. And again, I just wanted to reiterate that certainly in these times, we want to provide as many resources to the community as possible. We want to reference our community resource guide to combat hate, in which community members can find all sorts of resources on where to seek mental health services, where to reach out if you feel as though you have been a victim of a hate crime, where to go for information, how to access multiple organizations or entities that can help you submit that kind of paperwork wherever you feel comfortable. And it's a wealth of information that the community has put together. So please access that community resource guide through the Bronx Community Board 8 website. And we'll be looking to send out the meeting notice for our street meeting in November as soon as the date's available. Thank you, Margaret. Special Committee on Hudson River Greenway, any reports from any committee member? Okay, we'll go on to aging.
Hi, it's me again. We are having our meeting on October 10th at the Hebrew Home. Our speaker is David V. Pomerantz, the new CEO, so we can introduce him to the aging and the community board. They are going to have their new senior housing there, so I'm sure he'll talk about his full career, how he started out and everything at the Hebrew Home, and now he's the CEO. So introducing him, and hopefully some of the members can join us. We have flyers on the table. And that'll be my first meeting as chair, and actually getting close to that 65 marker. I'll be an actual senior myself going there. And I also would like to, my sentiments on Chris Calhoun. I've worked on committees with him for a while. Julie refers to us as the old married couple. We used to put hints on, but we loved each other. We were good friends, and I missed the conversations about the old shows, and we'd laugh about things and have some good laughs. Brought chicken nuggets to the thing and shared them around, so it was always fun, and you never know what was gonna happen, so. I'm really gonna miss Chris. It's like my little brother. All right, I'll turn it over to the next one.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Regarding the aging committee, we're having a guest speaker. Everyone should have a flyer in front of them. If you can post it in your building, a laundromat, anywhere, just sort of let the community know that we're having a speaker. And if you can support other committee meetings, especially when they have a guest speaker, even on Zoom or in person. And then we will go on to Parks Committee. Is that Travis?
Good evening, everybody. I also would like to just acknowledge the passing of Chris Calhoun. When I learned about it, the first thing I thought of also was the Marble Hill playground lighting, which might be one of the nerdiest responses I've ever had to learning of the passing of a really wonderful individual. But I will always think of him as I see these budget priorities, and will continue to advocate for it. Because when it's in place, it's gonna be his light shining over his neighborhood, as far as I'm concerned. We had the National Society of Colonial Dames issue back on the agenda in September. I will refer you to our Parks Committee meeting minutes to catch up on all of that. I want to just remind everybody that it is the fall, which is a great time to go out and volunteer with parks groups. If you go to the parks website, you can find all sorts of events to volunteer for with our stewards groups. The nursery is looking for volunteers. Van Cortlandt Park Alliance has events basically every day all week, including 2 raking events to prepare Memorial Grove for the November 3rd event. There'll be a volunteer day on the 24th of October and on the 31st of October from 1 to 4 for that. So just go head on over. Also Hiketoberfest, there's a Wags to Witches thing happening with Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, and the Van Cortlandt House Museum has a whole bunch of events. Some really interesting ones on the Underground Railroad, I believe, are either this week or next week. But definitely go to their website, check out some of the stuff they've got. They've got some concerts coming up. Just like, it's nice to see some real good quality programming there. And the next meeting of the Parks Committee is October 30th. And that's it. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Deb. I'm just gonna jump to Councilmember Eric Dinowitz, who has joined us. I said I would go back to him since he joined. Councilmember Dinowitz.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Great to be here. I just, of course, want to share the sentiments of everyone who spoke about Chris. It's a real loss, not just to the board, but to the community. I'd see him all around town, and it was always a treat to see him and what he gave to the community. And it's I think really sad for all of us. I'll just be very quick. I think we've done a lot of events in the community. We've had, I think, 3 shredding events in the past 3 weeks. I know I saw a number of you there today. We had the flu shots along with, these are all done in concert with our elected officials like Assemblyman Dinowitz, Borough President Gibson, and Congressmember Torres. And I think that's one of the strengths of our community, that a lot of the local elected officials work very well together. And of course, we just recently, 2 weeks ago, had the Betty and Lloyd Adams street co-naming. It was a really beautiful event, honoring, I think 2 people who gave a lot to the community. I want to make sure you know 2 things about City of Yes. One is the hearing date has been set for the Subcommittee on Zoning and Franchises. October 21st is going to be the hearing where the city will present do their presentation from the Department of City Planning. There will be no testimony on the 21st. On the 22nd, starting at 9:30 a.m., October 22nd, 9:30 a.m., that is when there will be a public hearing. I encourage anyone who wants to make their voice heard to go and testify either in person or online. I do warn you, I imagine a lot of people will be signing up to testify. You can also submit testimony online. My office, in our emails, we send out all the links to do that, but I am also collecting internal information because I'm interested in knowing how all of you in the community are feeling about elements of the proposal, because we are also meeting as a Bronx delegation to talk about what we do and don't want to see in the Bronx, if anything at all. I am collecting this survey data at ericdinowitz.nyc/cityofyes. Again, that's internal data. That's not official testimony, but I encourage all of you to share with me your thoughts on elements of City of Yes for housing. That's ericdinowitz.nyc/cityofyes to go to my Google form. Again, pay attention to my newsletters where we will send out more information about, in writing the dates and how to testify. And I will leave it there.
Thank you, Eric. And Sarah did email all the board members your survey. Anyone has any questions for Councilmember Dinowitz? Okay, thank you, Eric.
Thanks, everybody.
The next is land use, Chuck.
Okay. First, let me say that while we may not vote on substantive matters tonight, on a procedural matter, I would like to recommend that we adjourn this meeting out of respect for and in tribute to Chris Calhoun and to his memory. So, Madam Chair, I would ask that we do that and that the minutes reflect that that is what we have done tonight.
I think Chris would want us to move on and finish the meeting. We're like 3 items away.
Land use. We had 2 substantive matters of some significance last evening. Both met the same fate, namely they were both adjourned. Both were adjourned so that the community affected could have a conversation with the applicant. In both cases, that was not necessarily what the applicant wanted, namely to have a conversation with the people in the area, but that is part of what I wanted to communicate to you. There were 2 lessons that last night illustrated. I have served as chair of this committee for probably in excess of 30 years, which is a hell of a long time. I was the first chair of this board and the last chair of its predecessor. In all of that time, I have not seen such a total lack of civility, lack of community, lack of any interest on the part of government toward community. This was once called the Community Planning Board. We were to be the planning entity. That's how it was created. That's what the title of the board was until it was changed not too long ago. And that has seeped into those who apply for relief. So that the first item of the two that I'm speaking about was an application to build a series of townhouses, connected townhouses, along the Henry Hudson Parkway at about 235th Street, where there now is a stately old home. And part of the application, it was a SNAD application again, was the interesting fact that if City of Yes passes as city planning wants it, you can forget about SNAD, you can forget about anything involving natural area or conservation. It specifically says so in the report of city planning. And indeed, by their deeds over the past few years, city planning has demonstrated it has absolutely no interest in the environment or in community. But having said that, what happened last night was a serious question. Among the trees that were to be uprooted were those facing the Henry Hudson Parkway. And what was proposed to be put in the place of stately old trees were a bunch of 3-inch caliper things in the back of the building. If 50% of them survived a year, that would have been a miracle. But that's what is at foot. It is a lack of concern about what people think in the community and what the community looks like and should look like. And what was the most depressing part of it was that the people who were advocating for the trees said, we know city planning will not do anything about this, but we want to make a stand in our community. The committee adjourned the matter and asked that the developer meet with the community people involved and talk to them about it and come back next month and try and think about community. The second item was even more to that depressing point. A few months ago, there was before us an application to deal with the issue of the Van Cortlandt Jewish Center being closed and the construction of a housing complex in that area. The developer at that time was very much in touch with community, very much in touch with people and the board in terms of trying to accommodate concerns. This time, however, having gotten past that hurdle, the attitude changed, whether it was because I got what I want and now that I don't need to talk to you. But it was very simply when community people wanted to talk to him about issues involving the construction and SNAD consequences there, he wasn't even going to prepare to talk at the meeting. He wasn't going to meet with them. He wasn't going to do anything. That's the problem. I know I'm going on longer than anyone, including me, would like me to go on. But I want to make a point to you all. We are at a crossroads here. We have a choice between being New York or downtown San Francisco. We have a choice between being New York or Newark. At the moment, the way this city is going, I think we ought to consider inviting Westchester and Putnam to come and make, through its Chamber of Commerce, a presentation on the fine homes that may be available and apartments that may be available up there so that people can have an orderly transition. It's bad. Because the second one, here was somebody who had wanted something from us and came to us last time and worked with the community and the people. And now, when people wanted him to even open his mouth at the hearing and say why various SNAD considerations weren't something he wanted to talk about, he said, I'm not going to talk to you. That is where we are heading, and it isn't good. It will affect each and every one of your committees if it has not already done so. I ask you to keep that in mind because you need to think about what you individually in your committees can do to turn that ship around. Because if we don't, it'll be too damn late. What we did again last night on the second item, we postponed it for a month and told them to get together. If they don't get together, I'll postpone it for another month. And I'll keep doing it if my committee will agree with me. Because people have got to have an opportunity to talk to their representatives, and they have to have an opportunity to be a part of community and have an interest in this city. Otherwise, we can forget it all. And I apologize for lecturing to you, and I thank you for listening to me. Next meeting is got to be worked out because it's the day before election day, is our normal time. So we may have to move it to the following week if we can, but I leave that up to the chair and the district manager.
Thank you, Chuck. And we wish her all the best. Anyone have questions for Chuck? Okay. Go to economic development. Anyone has a report for that committee? Okay, we'll move on to miscellaneous, and this part, I don't know, Artie, if there's any representatives online or present, Dario, no. We give them, what, 1 minute? We should, Dario? Okay.
We have the Bronx DA's office, Bronx DA's office.
Okay. Okay, so we have the Bronx DA's office and.
Joe is not here. Joe is not here.
So,
No.
okay. So, our next meeting will be on Tuesday, November 12th. Thank you all for your patience and for coming. Any motion? Wait, hold on 1 second.
They
We're gonna
didn't-
adjourn. I'll second approvals. Oh, we can. You said the Bronx DA is here?
No, the DA's office, I asked to unmute. They don't want to unmute. That's up to them.
Okay, so the Bronx DA's office will not unmute themselves, so they have nothing to report, so we'll adjourn. Okay. So she can't vote, we're all leaving tonight, and thank you.